Hey, what's going on, Guardians? My name is the Black Link, and today, or rather tonight, of course, it's Thursday, another Thursday evening, this time for September 3rd, 2020. And you know what that means. It's time for another week's issue of the Bungie Weekly blog, This Week at Bungie. And oh boy, do we have some stuff to cover in this one, some Triumph stuff, as Bungie is going to be going in-depth at exactly how your lore earnables, your Triumph score, and even some of the things tied to it like exotic catalysts are going to be changing when the Destiny Content Vault becomes a thing on November 10th with Destiny 2 Beyond Light. Now, first things first, if you haven't been paying attention to any of the D2 news this week, Bungie has been putting out Solstice, or rather Stasis Spotlights. I'm still stuck in the whole Solstice of Heroes thing, ending next week, by the way. But Bungie's been putting out Stasis Spotlights, which are articles going in-depth on the new Stasis subclasses for each of the main classes, Titan, Warlocks, and Hunters. They've already gone through the Warlock Shadebinder and the Titan Behemoth class, which we got an article about earlier today. But next week, we're going to be learning about the final of these new subclasses, the Hunter Revenant. So make sure you're staying tuned to that. If you missed out on any of that information or any of the news that dropped alongside of it, we do have videos covering that right here on the channel. I'll have links to those down in the description box below. But when it comes to this week's issue of the TWAB, a big chunk of what we're going to be talking about tonight is Triumphs. How exactly Triumphs are going to be changing with the Destiny Content Vault. Because of course, a lot of the planets that these Triumphs are tied to are going to be disappearing. So this week, we get to hear from the Destiny dev team on how exactly this stuff, this lore challenges, and even your Triumph score are going to be moving forward in Destiny 2. Here's what Bungie had to say. A few weeks ago, we shared more details about the Destiny Content Vault. We mentioned that you should start finishing off any triumphs associated with content that is going into the vault, but we didn't go into details on how seals and titles would be affected. Separate from the DCV, we have plans to rework triumphs all up, and the Destiny dev team is here to share what they have planned. And of course here, they give us a few of the goals that they want to meet with some of the changes to triumphs here. And here's what those goals are. First, they want to provide pursuits for all players. They also want to provide seasonal pursuits that match each season of Destiny. They want to provide destination pursuits for each new destination in Destiny, and they want to ensure everyone can show off their accomplishments. Next up is my favorite. They want to make all triumphs have a score. Right now there's a lot of triumphs that don't have a score, and it kind of irks somebody who goes for a decent triumph score like me. Very happy to see that they're going to be addressing that. And they want to make sure it's clear what happens when content goes into the DCV. And with that in mind, they say that for Shadowkeep and the base Destiny 2 experience, we tried to do this by combing through each triumph individually, looking to see if it was still achievable, and then taking the score away from any triumph that could no longer be earned. While it achieved most of our goals, it didn't give you the ability to plan your attack to earn absolutely everything you wanted to, and there wasn't a good predictor on when things would go away. For us to hit our goals, we knew we needed to make some changes with how we were delivering triumphs to players. So what is it Bungie's going to do? Well, first, they're going to reorganize triumphs to make them more compatible with their evolving world. They're going to do this by creating a career score that represents the totality of what you've done in Destiny 2. They're going to create an active score for the things that can be done right now in the live game. They state that they want to focus their generic triumphs into a leaner lifetime set that covers the basics of being a guardian and organize the rest of the triumphs around seasons and destinations. Ultimately, they want you to be able to track the history of what you've done as legacy triumphs. Next up, Beyond Light will include a set of triumphs that targets this year's destination, Europa. These triumphs will all have a score tied to them. Very happy about that. And they include the content on the destination, which of course includes story missions, strikes, raids, lost sectors, and yes, even some, as of now, hidden secrets. Next up, there will be a set of triumphs that target Season 12's content. These triumphs will also all have score. They say they like the pattern of rewarding seasonal currency for completing these triumphs and will continue to do so. And personally, I'm okay with that. Generally, whenever we've had a new currency drop with these seasons, completing triumphs will give you that currency. Moving on, these triumphs will stick around for as long as the seasonal content does. And while active, seasonal triumph score will still contribute to your active score. And when the seasonal content is no longer available, the seasonal set moves under legacy triumphs. They'll no longer contribute to your active score, but will still contribute to your overall career score. So remember, you're going to have two different triumph scores moving forward with Beyond Light. Your active score for all of the triumphs that are currently achievable in the game, with whether or not they're seasonal triumphs or X-Pack based triumphs like Beyond Light triumphs. And you're going to have your career score, which is going to track everything, currently active content and content that's in the DCV. Moving on, the lifetime set will be about teaching players all the things that you can do in Destiny. These will mostly target new players as they join our ranks. They will focus on helping players explore Destiny's sandbox and game modes. And if new systems are added to the game, the pool of lifetime set triumphs will increase. And of course, along with this, we get a neat mock-up screen for how the Triumph screen is going to be changing a little bit when Beyond Light comes out. I love the darker tone here. I hope that's something you can toggle in the game when Beyond Light drops. I'd love a dark mode for all of our inventory screens. But there you can see the difference between the active and the career Triumph score, giving us, of course, a great look at how things are going to be moving forward. You might also notice that they've moved medals, catalysts, and lore off into their own sections of the Triumph page, which is cool, but they'll be covering more on that later. Now that all that's out of the way, if you're wondering what they mean by legacy triumphs, they go on and address that here. They state that for this year, in-game, we'll remember your total triumph score and display it on the updated triumph screen. In-game, we'll also remember every triumph that contributed to a seal and display them under what's called legacy triumphs. You'll also be able to browse through your seals under the legacy triumph section in-game. And from here, you'll be able to equip the titles that you've earned going forward. They go on to state that they've stored the completion state of every triumph you've finished, even for triumphs that are no longer displayed in-game. And that work is ongoing to flesh out the categories those triumphs live in. Going forward, when content moves to the Destiny Content Vault, triumph sets that are no longer earnable will become these legacy triumphs. And legacy triumphs will contribute to your overall career score, but of course not your active score. So essentially, legacy triumphs are just triumphs that are no longer earnable in-game, which of course is going to tie into a lot of the seals and stuff from seasons past. And so of course the next big question after covering all of that would be, what about the things that can still be earned after November 10th? Thankfully they cover that as well. We'll break out the Luna, Dreaming City, Tangled Shore, EDZ, and Nessus triumphs into their own destination sets and keep them available and contributing to your active triumph score. And additionally, they'll move your progress into any triumph that still exists. In some cases, we've reduced the size of the triumph sets to make this easier to understand for newer players. This concerns stuff like Gambit, Crucible, and Vanguard. And in other cases, they've increased the size of the set and added new lifetime rewards. So essentially, some of these triumphs tied to certain destinations are still going to be earnable after November 10th. And they're going to be moved into their own new triumph set that you'll still be able to earn if you haven't already past November 10th. Alright, does this mean some seals may no longer be earnable? Yes, with a bunch of content going into the DCV, there are seals and their corresponding titles that will no longer be earnable when Beyond Light is released. And of course they gave us a list of the things that are going to be earnable in Beyond Light and moved into the legacy category. Here's what you'll still be able to earn in Beyond Light. The Crucible title Unbroken, Dredgen for Gambit, Flawless of course for Trials, Conqueror, Harbinger for Shadowkeep, Enlightened for the Garden of Salvation, the Cursebreaker title for the Dreaming City, Riven's Bane, and then 3 redacted seals set to release with Beyond Light. Here's the seals that are going to be moving into the Legacy category and thus be no longer earnable. Shadow, Reckoner, Blacksmith, Wayfarer, Chronicler, and all of the Season 5 through Season 11 titles. So if you're missing out on any of those, get them before Beyond Light goes live, if you still even can earn some of these. But alright, the last section here covers medals, exotic catalysts, and lore being moved about when the game sees this big change with the Destiny Content Vault on November 10th. Medals and catalysts will now have their own sections to make them more visible and easier to keep track of. Lore will also have its own section and a brand new UI to show off the book covers and improve the reading experience. All lore up through Season of Arrivals will be available to all players. The game will still show how many of the pages you've earned, but everyone will be able to read everything now. So if you still want to see X out of X pages earned, you still need to go and earn any of those missing lore pages before the end of the season. And finally, new lore will be unlocked through triumphs going forward and eventually made available to everyone when they become legacy triumphs. So rather than locking out some of that lore that you can earn by completing challenges throughout the game, everyone's going to get access to that. So you'll still be able to read it even if you haven't earned the associated triumph. I'm okay with that. But alright, there we go. That's it for this section on how triumphs are going to be changing. That was a lot of information to process. But suffice to say, there's going to be quite a few things changing when the Destiny Content Vault becomes a thing. And I'm glad Bungie's going through the steps here. Tell us exactly what we need to do if there's still some stuff we want to earn. I know there's 1 or 2 titles I want to get my hands on before it's all said and done. But alright, it's not the only bit of news we have to talk about this week. Very quickly, next week, the Iron Banner is returning once again alongside some bonus Valor. Starting, of course, 10 a.m. Pacific time next Tuesday on September 8th, Iron Banner's going live. It's going to be the Iron Banner control mode you know and love. We're still going to have the 2 reprised weapons for the Forward Path and the Fool's Remedy, so you can get the newer versions of those with the new Iron Banner-esque perks, Iron Gaze and Iron Grip. And if you still need a little bit more Valor to get your resets in before the end of the season, next week's going to be a great time to do it with bonus Valor Live. Alright, after that, the last thing we've got to talk about, Bungie made a very, very special change this week. They've retooled part of their API, which has made third-party programs access to that API much faster. If you use stuff like the Destiny 2 companion app or DIM or anything like that, speeds have been increased for swapping things from your inventory, transmatting stuff back and forth between characters by roughly 10 times. It's now roughly 10 times faster than before. So if you're somebody like me who plays a lot of Destiny 2 and swaps gear between my characters rather often, hopefully that experience should be much faster than it used to be now. Very happy about that. Definitely a quality of life change that I am more than pleased with. But alright, Guardians, that's pretty much it for the biggest bits of news in this week's issue of the Bungie Weekly blog, This Week at Bungie. Some big stuff going down with Triumphs, and we've learned a lot about the Stasis subclasses. Again, if you've missed any of that news, make sure you're staying tuned here to the channel. Again, there will be links to all of that, as well as to the TWAB down in the description box below. How do you feel about the Triumph changes? I tried to do my best to keep it all together here, but I'll admit, it is a little bit confusing to try to figure out exactly what's staying, what's becoming legacy, what's going to be legacy, but still earnable when Beyond Light goes live. If you've got any questions about any of that, drop them down in the comment section below. I'll see what I can do to answer it and clear up any confusion that may be surrounding the subject. But alright, that's the news. Those are my thoughts. Be sure to leave me yours down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a like, make sure you subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with all the latest stuff we're putting out. But I'm out for now. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I am the Black Link. You Guardians, stay frosty.